Hi everybody, this is a very important video and I'm going to be sharing some really seriously important information that hopefully will enlighten people. I'm aware that some people may be even afraid of what I'm sharing, to entertain the possibility that it's true or the probability. All I can do is share my life experience, and one thing that I decided a very long time ago was that the one thing I was never ever going to ignore was my own life experience and what I had learned through that. And for those who followed my videos, which I know are few and far between among my supporters, knows that I am a survivor of 17 years child abuse from being a baby, and I've had to face a lot of difficulties in this life, and I'm still facing those difficulties, and I am actively addressing certain issues such as child abuse and law, the kind of law that we are governed by. Now, a couple of years ago I made this video, Supernatural or Not Yet, and I'll leave you the link to it. It is a bit slow, it's a bit hesitant, but you know, this was the first time that I was sharing my experience of the event of Universal Golden Light being, and I decided to do it just completely ad lib as I'm doing this video. And I was at that time going through a lot of personal stuff as well as dealing with the larger issues out in the external world, confronting those and actively addressing them. And so I know the video is a bit slow and it comes out a bit choppy at times, so I've decided to clarify some of the points that are shared here and also represent the experience and to place it in the context of what is happening right now on our planet. And I've also updated the description box underneath the video, which I will read out at some point in this video. Now, what this video is actually referring to, and at the same time referencing this experience from a very brave and courageous, intelligent lady who had suffered abuse as a child, not within her own family home but from people outside her family home, and that she'd never disclosed to anybody, and as a result later in life she was having mental health problems and she regularly encountered these beings in her mind that she called the not yets. And due to her experiences and the fact that this was described as a psychotic episode or evidence of psychosis, and given my own experiences and my own self-development through child abuse as somebody who lives with complex PTSD, I did understand that the not yets very likely represented this lady's future selves, who were coming back to tell her that the terrible things that are going to happen in her future lives, due exactly to the fact that the world hadn't yet bothered to adequately address what had happened to herself as a child in this life. And to such a degree she couldn't even talk about it to anybody, you see. So, and I've likened the not yets to the prophets that come to warn us. And I give the example of Jonah, who God apparently forced Jonah to go to the people of Nineveh and deliver a horrific prophecy against them, to tell them how terrible things were going to be for them in the future. And the people heard that as a threat of a punishment, and they immediately repented of their crimes and chose to live lawfully and asked God to forgive them. And so God did, and none of the terrible things happened. And Jonah was very, very upset And he was very angry with God because he said, you forced me to go and give this prophecy, and now none of it's happened. So basically, his prophecy didn't come true, did it? And God explains to Jonah that, look, the people have changed. They've decided to live lawfully. And so none of that needed to happen, you see. So, don't be sad. It's because you gave them that prophecy, because you gave them that warning, the people learned and understood and stopped the prophecy from happening. And that is essentially what this lady, through therapy, started to understand what the purpose of the not yets were, is that they were trying to protect her, they were trying to warn her and set her on the path to healing and self-development, which clearly she now is on. So my experience, which was dismissed by many people at the time as a psychotic episode, but as I say, please listen to this video if you can spare the time, and bear with me, because I'm having to share some pretty incredible, really to most people, experiences, and just finding the voice to be able to articulate them. But my experiences of golden light being, which was an event. It was an event of golden light being. And a few months after, which I don't share in this video, a few months after I witnessed that event and received this message of universal law that later I articulated as universal law of abundance and compassion, that came into my being through an energy of bliss. Okay? That is the law. That is intelligence. That we live in an intelligent universe that operates on a quantum level, and it is intelligent, and the law that it has set is there for our benefit, for our guidance as intelligent beings. So now I'm going to read you the updated description here. Intelligence needs always to be a host's free choice. Intelligence is happiest to live with those who most graciously delight to be a host. Intelligence does not desire nor require slaves. When universal law is fully established with compassion as the head cornerstone, those who choose to honour and respect that intelligent law as a guide for our actions and beliefs will be protected from those who choose to ignore intelligence for sake of satisfying their fantasies and criminal ambitions. The law will arrest such individuals, and not to punish but to provide therapy and treatment to the extent that an offender is more fully attuned with their intelligence and therefore is no longer a threat to the welfare and safety of the general public. In context of universal law, ignorance is the true stumbling block that causes us to fall in our world, and it is by today exceptionally clear that ignorance is the head cornerstone of our prevailing systems of law, and actually finance. The true head cornerstone, i.e. compassion, has been refused and instead placed for a stumbling block that operates to ensure the most compassionate and caring in life will fail in this world and will never reach a place of power. And if ever they do, they'll be assassinated like Gandhi, JFK, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and so many truly intelligent humans, both male and female, who are cast out into the twilight zones of officially accepted reality. I firmly understand that connecting with the truth of our eternal quantum light being bodies and the intelligence that guides intelligence is a fundamental necessity if ever we are to deliver any truly positive and lasting changes to our lived experience on this planet. So I've just noticed I've done a huge typo there. But, I am dyslexic, and it is very, very difficult for me to notice errors. I sometimes have to read something over and over and over again that I've written before I will actually notice the errors. And unfortunately my PC is in a state of needing some sort of repairs to it right now, so the one I have now doesn't have the spell check facility on it. So again, I am sharing this experience. I am asking people to connect with our super intelligence, with our super selves, to understand that God is the divine creative spirit that operates through everything in this universe. Everything in this universe has arrived into being through quantum energy. And in the living host, the biology of a human being, the quantum energy is our light being body. And because humans are not designed to live purely by instinct, we do depend on intellectual intelligence, our spirit, the spirit. That's what the spirit is. Thoughts, the energy, the material quantum energy of our thoughts. That's the spirit, okay? And we, each of us, as a physical body with a brain that's a machine to house the quantum energy so that it may control and operate the body, which for the most part is operating on an instinctive level of mass cooperation that takes place within the cells of the human body. But then we also have a consciousness, conscious awareness, and we have freedom of choice and to act and to alter the reality, the external world that we are living in. Now, our actions are either going to be for the good or the bad, aren't they? We're either going to destroy and make life unhappy and a lot worse by our actions, or we're going to build, develop, and actually improve the circumstances of our external world, and in the process our own lives. According to universal intelligence, crime does not pay. A few people may benefit from the crimes and profit, the people that actually facilitate the crimes and desire those crimes, or even wish to commit crimes because they have perverse, sadistic pleasures to satisfy, like, for example, abusing children, abusing the populace. And we do understand that the criminal consciousness of this world that has its cornerstone, its head cornerstone for the law, is ignorance. That's a fact. That is a fact. That's not a theory. It's a fact. The head cornerstone of the law presently governing our planet right now, through the power of finance largely, and the twisted and corrupted so-called religions that support those corrupted powers and rarely question them, that whole system is operating on a fundamental level of ignorance, and an ignorance that is sustained and itself created by judgment, the traditional Babylonian judgments that Rome itself had incorporated. Don't forget, Rome, the creation of two brothers raised by wolves. Two brothers who then tried to impose the social understanding that they'd grown up within a wolf pack onto humanity. So take a look at a wolf pack. The females are lower than the males. They have less power, less say in the pack. The pups are even lower. Okay, the pups, they're nothing. They can be killed even by the alpha male. And the whole point of the wolf pack is that ultimately it's going to be led by one alpha male. who may at certain times have to fight with another contender who wants to be alpha male, and there's a pecking order within the pack. and the wolves, like dogs that are bred from wolves, are always constantly vying to be head of the pack. Anybody who owns a dog understands this, of how important it is to make your dog understand that no, you are not the leader of this pack. But the dog will try. The dog will constantly try to be the leader of the pack, to dictate what's going to happen. And that is exactly the culture that was imposed onto Roman society by these two brothers, who ultimately ended up even fighting against themselves so that one is the supreme ruler. Because that's the nature of a wolf pack. And we are still living according to that wolf pack consciousness. Now, at the time Rome was established, the rest of the world, the vast majority of it, did not live according to those constraints, according to that construct. For example, Celtic society that operated outside of Rome, the Druid Celtic society that flourished really throughout Europe, operated very much more on a social level. Females were not considered inferior to males. Children were given the same respect as they would give to a priest. Children were considered pure and holy. And anybody who harmed a child was considered a most terrible criminal. You know, I'm not saying the society was perfect and people didn't harm children and that some women weren't abused just because they are less powerful than men, but the general law that people lived by meant that they didn't have hard borders. It meant that there were female leaders and warriors as well as males, that both men and women could choose who they got married to when they wanted to end a marriage. Women were allowed to own wealth and to contribute to decisions made by the community. Women owned land. And there was a law that it wasn't a written law, but everybody consciously accepted that every community had a duty to care for the children, to care for the sick, to care for the elderly. That these were fundamental to a human society. Really, that we do live with a level of compassion. And don't forget, we're talking thousands of years ago. Now, when we go to the Middle East and we look at the Hebrew people who left Egypt, regardless of the stories that have been told that are through time corrupted with various inclusions, and after witnessing the light being, I can see through those inclusions. I know the wheat from the chaff. And the Bible, like every holy book, is full of both wheat and chaff. And the Quran, being the most perfect, actually, does itself warn the readers that there is not one holy book or prophet of Allah that is not polluted by Satan. So Satan is confusion, the criminal mind that adheres to criminal beliefs and doctrines. So, you know, the Quran explains that. I have read the Quran. On the surface, people can judge away, but there's a bedrock to that lake, and there are stepping stones across that lake that are in key positions in the Quran. There's 12 points in the Quran. I think I have shared a video before explaining them, but those 12 points exist, and they explain to people that it isn't the religion that people need to follow, it's the intelligent guidance, the golden universal lie that Prophet Muhammad was host to, and he shared with his people. And I know he was host because not long after I'd had that dream, had that experience, of the event of light being, I dreamed of Prophet Muhammad quite unexpectedly, because I was not a Muslim, and actually I didn't even like Islam, because I just knew the surface of it, as depicted by Saudi Arabia, for example. And at that time, the extremists that had took over Iran as Ayatollah Khomeini and his cohorts. So I had a very negative view of Islam, so I was very, very surprised to have a dream of Prophet Muhammad, who I didn't instantly recognise in my dream. It was towards the end of my dream I suddenly realised who it was I was standing before. And he had that same golden light shining from his skin. So that was telling me something. It was telling me, look, this man, you need to check him out, because he was host to universal golden light energy, as Jesus was. And I have had dreams of Jesus. So, you know. So I did. I checked him out. And what I found was an absolutely beautiful human being. Very caring, very compassionate, and I'm not going to go into all the details of Islam, but I do know that a lot of what's out there in the world at the moment as the headline news about Islam it just isn't true, and it does not at all reflect the reality of who Prophet Muhammad was. And the same goes for Jesus, because Jesus was usurped by the Roman wolf pack consciousness, and they promptly put on their sheepskins, didn't they? And turned Jesus into a religion. Jesus' faith, he was a Jew. Jesus is a Jew. That's the fact of it. Okay? Christianity is something created by the Roman wolf pack. It is a mock Luciferian cult that promotes mock ritual, human sacrifice, and mock cannibalism, and all while praying before an instrument of Roman torture. Okay? And this idea that one man should die to save everybody from sin. No, actually Jesus lived to save people from sin, just in the same way that Jonah lived to save the people of Nineveh from sin. That he ultimately obeyed the intelligence because the situation was so desperate. And he did explain to people, without even knowing it himself actually at the time what he was doing, that he was actually giving people a warning. But the people of that time could only see him as a prophet. Oh, he's a prophet. But they understood. They weren't stupid. They understood that, look, surely this doesn't need to happen. Please, please, give us a chance. Give us a chance. And the people of Nineveh were given a chance, because as the Quran, as Prophet Muhammad rightly stated, God is most kind, most merciful, most forgiving. In fact, everything that really the humans of this world are not. You will find forgiveness, kindness and mercy in abundance by majority amongst the very poorest people on this planet. That is another fact. There's no getting away from the facts, and humanity is going to need to wake up to the facts, because there will be no more facts to wake up to if we don't act soon, because this planet is on the brink of total destruction. That's the fact of it. Now, according to most people's wishes, apparently, especially the far-right Christians operating in this world at the moment, they're all hell-bent on fulfilling Revelations. Revelations was not written by Jesus or actually any recognised prophet of God. It was written by a man called Cerinthus, a Greek Gnostic who actually loathed Rome almost as much as he actually loathed Jesus. And he was a misogynist. That much is clear from his text. He read through the Old Testament, the original Testament, and he then plagiarised all the prophecies from the original Testament prophets, the warnings and the promises, and then created his revelations out of them. That's why Revelations does hold some truth, because that truth was the original truth from the original prophets that are reflected in the original Testament. But it's a cut and paste job, and it's been completely manipulated to serve the base motives and beliefs of Cerinthus, who could not himself claim to be a prophet of God. He wanted his prophecy to be taken seriously, so he falsely attributed it to St. John the Apostle. And according to my research, St. John the Apostle, who knew Cerinthus in his life, loathed the man and cited him as the deceiver of all mankind. Well, certainly he's been successful in that. And to such a degree, the so-called Christians of this world, who allegedly believe in Jesus, can't wait to see Revelations completely fulfilled. Well, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And obviously, these people of today, of the 21st century, do not have the same level of intelligence and understanding of God, the universal intelligence that created us, as the people of Nineveh thousands of years ago. That is very strange. So, what I'm going to do is, look, there's 3 minutes left to 30 minutes. I'm going to do a series of 3 videos, and each one of them is going to be 30 minutes long. So I hope this video has brought an introduction into what I'm talking about, where I'm coming from, and provided a foundation for the next 2 videos. Okay. And in the next couple of videos, I'm going to be discussing what is actually happening in the here and now, in our world, and how all of this understanding and experience that I am sharing can impact that. And how lack of knowledge, lack of understanding will fulfill to the letter Revelations. And there are some serious things to consider as well, of the fact that it really might be too late to halt what is happening. We may have reached the point of no return. And that is a very depressing thought. And I think to myself, well, you know, the universe revealed itself to me for a purpose, obviously to share this with humanity in our hour of need, and when humanity is most receptive to receiving that. And perhaps there is hope. Perhaps people will actually see sense, see the light, as it were, and actually change, bring about the change that we need. And that's going to need assistance from some very powerful people in this world, who are going to need to completely change their mind. And if we have that chance of just 10 years or 20 years to dramatically implement those changes, then there's hope. And we need, for the sake of the human child, to get strong in that hope, and to know that we can and we will make this world a much, much better place to deliver children into. So I'm going to end this one here, and as I say, I'll be making 2 more videos, both around half an hour long, and so you know you can take time to watch them. So sending love and blessings to all.